So today we're going to be programming or coding a simple port scanner. I'll explain the code as I go on. Um, Alright, so let's just call it port underscore scanner. Alright, so we're going to import socket. It's a module that you can use for stuff. Import sys, and then from date time import date time right, port underscore scanner, start port and port. Okay, so if this is a host name, right, we want it to turn into an IP address. So like, say we take google.com, right? That's google.com. That's google.com's IP address. Alright. So we're going to do this. We're going to make it detailed. So we're going to print a banner with some information. I'm going to make a banner. So that'll do that. Then we want to do, let's do this. Let's just make it cleaner. Yeah, okay, that's basically how we do this. Basically, this is going to create a banner. It'll tell us what target it's scanning, and like the target's IP, and it'll tell us the date time dot whatever it is. So like date time dot now. So if I start the scan now, it'll give me the current time, and that's what it'll do. It'll just give us some details. So now, what we want to do is we want to loop through the specified port range. So for port in range, start port, end port plus 1, because we want it to go to the endport, not stop at the endport. We want it to go through it, and that's just how Python works. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a new socket object. So we're going to do sock equals socket dot socket af inet socket dot sock string. This is for IPv4 TCP. We're going to set a timeout for the connection attempt. Okay. Result equals sock.connect x. Target IP, port. What this does is it attempts to connect to the port. If result is 0, print port, port, open. This gives us the connection result. So, if the port is open, it'll tell us the port is open. Now we want to close the socket. So we're going to close the socket by doing sock.close. Okay. We also want to accept keyboard interrupt exiting port scanner. We also want to accept exception. Not exception. We want to have what is it? Socket.error. I can't spell. Okay. That's almost, we're almost done. We just need to do the main block. So we're going to check for correct command line arguments. So we're going to do this. This makes sure that it is correct, like arguments wise. What we're going to do now is get the target and port range from the command line arguments. So the way to do that is we're going to do target equals sys dot argv1. Start port and end port is that. So we need to make sure these are integers, by the way, because I mean they're integers and not like how the target is, which is a string. But yeah, we need to make sure these are integers. Now we want to validate our port range. So if start underscore port greater than 1, our end port is greater than 65,535, which is the max port, or start port is greater than end port. Port numbers must be between 1 and 65,535, and start port must be less than or equal to end port. And then we just exit. Now we want to start the scan. So we're going to do port scanner, target, start port, end port. That's our port scanner. Now, if I go in to our actually I need to make a new command prompt window because that one's running something. cd downloads python port scanner.py google.com 802443. Port 80 is open, obviously. Okay. So now while we wait for that, I'll explain the imports. So socket is for network connections. Sys is for system-specific parameters and functions. So like, see how we used it to get exit. We used it for getting the arguments from the command line, stuff like that. Datetime is to timestamp it. It just timestamps the scan. Our main function is port scanner, port underscore scanner. That's the core function in our code. So the hostname resolution, target IP, so this line right here. So that converts a hostname to an IP address if needed, only if needed. This won't affect it if you already put an IP address in. So if I already put IP address in, I was just checking my Discord. Scan banner just makes the scan banner right here. It just makes this cool looking banner, like what you see right here, like this. port scanning loop iterates through each port in the specified range. So it'll iterate from 80 through 443, which is what I put in over here. 80 through 443. So it'll go through every single port between 80 through 443, including 80 and 443. Okay, so the socket creation, which is this line right here, that creates a TCP IP socket for IPv4 or TCP. This sock.set timeout just creates a timeout for 1 second to prevent it from hanging, because we don't want that to happen. The connection attempts to connect to the port and returns 0 if successful. So if the result is 0, then we print port, whatever the port was, and open. So we need to close the socket after opening it, and the way to do that is sock.close. This prevents us from keeping that socket open, and it also lets us use it later, like another socket if we need. Most scripts. Some scripts will need that. This one doesn't. Right. So the error handling right here. So this just handles various errors that are common, and it handles them gracefully without crashing the program. The main block right here. This makes sure the code only runs while executed directly. So it won't just run when I run the file. I need to actually put in, I can't just do portscanner.py and it'll run. I actually have to put in these arguments. I have to make sure that nothing in here will run unless, I call this. Argument handling. So if this right here, right, this checks for the correct number of arguments. Obviously, we just want people to use the tool correctly. We don't want it to backfire. It'll tell us, see how we need to use port scanner, and then our target, start port, and end port right there. Right. Now, where is it? Alright, if start port, this thing right here. This ensures the ports are within the valid range. Obviously, we can't go above 65,535 because there's no more ports after that. And the start port has to be less than or equal to the end port. Otherwise, you're scanning from something greater than to something less than, rather than going in order, which is easier. And the scan initiation starts the scanning process right here. This starts the scanner, calls the function over here. So, yeah. Also, please always make sure that you have permission to scan the target system. Or if you're scanning something, make sure you're not doing it for malicious reasons. So I'm scanning Google, and we obviously know that port 80 and 443 are going to be open because it's a web server. I'm not going to do anything malicious with it. Please don't do anything malicious with it. That would be a pain, honestly. Nobody really likes that. But yeah, that's how you create a port scanner. You can definitely make one that's simpler than this, but this is one that, one is easy to use and has more features. It also tells you the date, time, and it looks cooler, honestly. It just looks a little nicer than a regular port scanner with that. So So yeah, thank you all for watching, and please only do this for ethical purposes. Do not use this in malicious ways, and make sure you don't start scanning, I don't know, like your friends' IP addresses and then messing with them and being like, oh, this port's open, and just don't do that, please. Like I scanned Google, that's fine. Scanning popular websites, web servers, you already know 80 and 443 are open. Don't be scanning like your school network or something like that, because you can actually get into trouble for that, and it will link your IP as well. You can get into trouble for that. You will get caught. This is not foolproof or anything. So please don't do that for your own good. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video.